Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Tonight on Our News, health officials caution against political gatherings. Asylum seekers claiming wrongful detention released from the detention center. And it may not be smooth sailing when cruises resume. The latest warning from PAHO officials. Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Pearl McMillan today suggesting that political gatherings should not be happening at this time. This as health officials continue to monitor an increase in COVID-19 cases. Kyle Joaquin tells us more.
Be they political, be they a party, be they a gathering of family, we have to continue to follow the public health measures.
McMillan's statement came after repeated questioning from reporters about political events occurring. While she tried to shy away from giving a position and said political activity was not being monitored, she did say this.
I think in what I just, the address I just made, I made it very clear. Those types of gatherings should not be occurring. There should not be gatherings that are above and beyond what has been agreed upon and in the emergency orders, as well as you need to wear your mask.
And in the emergency orders, all social gatherings on New Providence, Abaco, Eleuthera, and Exuma are prohibited. Health officials continue to monitor an increase in COVID-19 cases, particularly in New Providence, where there are 117 active cases, and Grand Bahama, where there are 102.
146 new cases were reported for last week, which was Epi Week 13. Though this appears to be a reduction from the week prior, it should be noted that last week coincided with Easter, when many of the testing centers either closed or had reduced operating hours.
There are 240 active cases in country, with 3 in intensive care at Doctors Hospital. Over 10,000 people have been vaccinated in country thus far.
The Ministry of Health is aware that some Bahamians may have obtained their COVID-19 vaccine in the United States. The Ministry of Health requests that persons who have obtained a vaccine from outside of the Bahamas relay that information to us soonest.
And now the priority list for COVID-19 vaccinations in country has been adjusted. That list now includes teachers and staff of schools, hospitality workers, students and athletes studying or competing abroad, and the homebound physically disabled. There are also more vaccination centers, including Loyola Hall, Church of God of Prophecy East Street, Kendall Isaacs Gymnasium, as well as Atlantis and Bahamar. But with concern growing once again about the potential of blood clots as a risk associated with the AstraZeneca vaccine, health officials once again saying the benefits far outweigh the risks.
Actually, the chance of getting the blood clot is way less than 0.1%. It's about 0.0065%. And so it's an extremely rare side effect that's possible.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, the European Medicines Agency is underscoring the benefits of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine after confirming that unusual blood clots with low blood platelets should be listed as very rare side effects of the vaccine. However, the agency reminds healthcare professionals and those receiving the vaccine that the possibility of those rare blood clots and low blood platelet levels can occur within 2 weeks of receiving the vaccine. And after being detained at the Carmichael Road Detention Center for nearly 2 years, 7 asylum seekers, including a 3-year-old girl, were released today. Bethany McDermott has that.
The 2 women, 5 men, and 3-year-old girl emerged from the Carmichael Road Detention Center after 1 p.m. Wednesday. Speaking with reporters waiting on the outside, they described their detainment as unjustifiable, adding it was disappointing and distressing.
It's traumatic. I really can't tell much. I would say it's shocking. I really didn't believe that in a country like the Bahamas, you could experience so much cruelty. It was a systematic cruelty abuse of all sorts.
So, I don't know, you the press, I think I don't know if I should consider the Bahamas a Western country or what. I really don't know. The Caribbean, I really don't know how to consider it anymore. Because before I was coming to the Bahamas, I thought it was really, really civilized. But the kind of brutality and hostility that we've received in this Carmichael Detention Center only tells me that I find myself somewhere around the Saudi Arabia or maybe somewhere, I don't know.
The asylum seekers explained that they fled their home countries of southern Cameroon and Biafra, Nigeria, for their safety. A writ filed by Calendars & Co. on January 20th claims the plaintiffs fled their countries due to well-founded fear of persecution by reasons of their race and or ethnicity and or religion, their Anglophone, social and political ties, and or their membership of political parties. That writ claimed that the plaintiffs have been wrongly detained, falsely imprisoned, and deprived of their personal liberty. In December 2020, Immigration Minister Ellsworth Johnson defended food served at the detention center, calling it one of the best eateries that provide food for detainees.
Even the Minister of Immigration, Ellsworth Johnson, claimed that there's good eateries or something. I don't know, I can't quote her exactly. That's unfortunate.
What's worse, they added, the mother was separated from her young child. They say they had no official word on where she was taken.
Nobody knew where the baby was because we had flying information. We did not have official information was never given to us where the baby was. We just had flying information from the detention center, from whatever officer, and people were just gossip. It was a gossip. So we heard that she was at call it social services because the safe house had a problem.
But the first day that I took her, you could see the baby. Even the officers that were on duty with me that day, they saw that the baby wasn't really taken care of. Because she's a very chubby baby, but right now very slim. Her hair was already locked in. Like they weren't even taking care of my baby.
They also say they had little opportunity to communicate with their families at home. The group is seeking refugee status, which will be determined by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in collaboration with the Bahamas government. During a hearing before Justice Bernard Turner Wednesday morning, government advised that the asylum seekers were prepared to be released as of 7 a.m. and others would be ready for release by the end of the day. The matter was adjourned to Thursday morning for a mention hearing to confirm that all individuals have been set free. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
In other news, after spending one night on remand, 50-year-old Apostle Julian Johnson is out on bail tonight. Johnson was arraigned on one count of intentional libel yesterday after prosecutors allege that sometime in March he recorded himself on video accusing Police Commissioner Paul Roll of sexually assaulting some female members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. In court today, the Crown concluded that Johnson is not a flight risk and is a suitable candidate for bail. Deputy Chief Magistrate Andrew Forbes granted $1,000 bail. Johnson returns to court on July 28th for trial. And a top official from the Pan American Health Organization is weighing in on the return of cruise ships in ports like the Bahamas. Dr. Ciro Ugarte says it is imperative that countries proceed with caution. Jasmine Brown reports.
With countries in the region, including the Bahamas, expected to welcome cruise ships back to their shores in a matter of months, PAHO Director of Health Emergencies, Dr. Ciro Ugarte, says they must proceed with caution.
It is imperative, though, to act with caution. Why? Because the transmission that was seen at the beginning of the pandemic in cruise ships, and also last summer when several countries in Europe and also in the Americas attempted to reopen the cruise ship industry and access to their ports, also showed an increase of number of cases, although at small scale.
Dr. Ugarte said PAHO is well aware of how vital cruise ship tourism is to countries like the Bahamas. However, he insisted that doesn't mean anyone should let their guards down.
Even though the tourism industry and the cruise ships are implementing prevention and other measures in order to reduce the transmissibility, according to the current situation and the spread of the virus in all the regions, and particularly in the Americas, it is imperative that each of the countries do a proper analysis of the situation and also look at where is the origin of the passengers and others.
In the House of Assembly last month, Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar said cruise lines have shown increased interest in the Bahamas as berth requests for the last 6 months of 2021 rose by 20% when compared to the same time period in 2019. Crystal Cruises is the first cruise company to announce it will set sail to the Bahamas beginning July 3rd. The Bahamas will be a home port for Crystal Cruises, and other major cruise lines have announced they plan on following suit. The cruise industry came to a halt last March as the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention enforced a no-sail order, with many companies voluntarily suspending sailings due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As it relates to the latest CDC guidelines, Dr. Ugarte said this.
The U.S. has released a new guideline and recommendations on the 2nd of April, but still there is no date just set for reopening the cruise ship in the Americas at least.
There were 5.4 million cruise visitors to the Bahamas in 2019. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Nice conditions in the capital today. Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest.
Thanks, Christina. I'm meteorologist Greg Thompson with your hump day weather today, Wednesday. Outside our studios, very nice conditions setting up for the evening. Temperatures are in the mid-70s under partly cloudy skies. The winds are out of the east at 6 knots. What's a bit of a breezy day today? Your feels-like temperature is still in the mid-70s. Satellite view around the area. Once again, beautiful conditions around the islands. Lots of sunshine, but we do have some high-level clouds moving out of the western Caribbean across the area, filtering that sunshine. We had a bit of a breeze, so that kept comfortable temperatures around the area for the rest of the day. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come, China hits back over U.S. concerns. Plus, police threaten to shut down a weekend beach bash. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
China is responding to a key U.S. military commander's warning that China is attempting to use influence in the Bahamas by offering large-scale economic investments and material support for infrastructure projects. Jared Higgs tells us more.
While testifying before the U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee back on March 16th, General Glenn Van Herk, who serves as the U.S. Air Force Commander for the U.S. Northern Command and North American Aerospace Defense Command, warned that in the U.S. Northcom area of responsibility, China has made deliberate attempts to increase its economic and political influence with the United States as close partners in Mexico and the Bahamas. But China hit back at the U.S. in a statement on Wednesday. It read, "In the spirit of building a community with a shared future for mankind, China has assisted the Bahamas in post-hurricane reconstruction and in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. We will soon provide another batch of medical supplies to this country. In the context of the ongoing pandemic, it is all the more disappointing to hear such negative comments about China-Bahamas cooperation." The statement went on to say, instead of finger-pointing, it would be much better to do more for vaccine accessibility for developing countries and for helping to create jobs and protect the livelihood of the local people. These are the real concerns of the people in this region. Former Minister of Foreign Affairs Fred Mitchell weighed in on the issue over the phone. He says the Bahamas' proximity to the U.S. is an unavoidably major factor.
The question of us being within their economic and political orbit, I don't think that even arises because we're just joined at the hip geographically with them. What I think people are resenting is the idea that we're part of some chess game between the United States and China. We're not. We're simply a country that wants to develop.
Several projects have come from the Bahamas' good relations with China. Thomas A. Robinson National Stadium was a gift project of China, and the Airport Gateway Expressway was constructed by a Chinese company using China's low-interest loan. Baha Mar Resort is owned by a Chinese entity and was built by the Chinese, as was the Point in downtown Nassau. However, some Bahamians have complained about the large amounts of Chinese workers used on these projects.
In terms of the infrastructure when we're getting them to come in to build for us when we have been quite capable of doing that type of work as well.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jared Higgs.
Grand Bahama Police warning organizers of a Moores Island beach party that their weekend event will be shut down. Superintendent Teresita Pinder says police spotted a flyer circulating on social media.
The most recent event, named Bad Freaks, is being promoted to occur on April 11th on Moores Island. I hereby offer a warning to all individuals planning to partake in this event that members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force are aware of this beach party. Furthermore, on the mentioned date, police presence will be on Moores Island in full force.
Police have recently issued warnings about large events on Grand Bahama and the Northern Islands without proper approval. Grand Bahama has recently seen a surge in cases with 348 cases reported on the island in March.
It is with great disappointment that I inform the general public that despite the many efforts of officers of the Royal Bahamas Police Force to enforce the COVID-19 protocols, which were implemented to mitigate the spread of the coronavirus, individuals persist in promoting major events that are not sanctioned by the competent authority.
Still to come, the Christian Council president calls campaigning a double standard. Plus, the UB Mingos pick up a national record in track and field. The details after this.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
This is our news. Welcome back. The Christian Council president says political gatherings held despite COVID-19 regulations are a double standard. Giorgio Bain reports.
Despite calls to simmer down political campaigning over the Easter weekend, some constituencies were still bustling with political activities such as office openings, meet and greets, and Easter basket giveaways. Bahamas Christian Council President Bishop Delton Fernando calling the recent events of all political parties a double standard, as church services, funerals, and weddings remain under tight restriction.
So how is it good for politicians to come to the country and say, we can be in the same area once we're wearing the same mask, but yet for a funeral, you're trying to point out that all of us are wearing masks, all of us are social distance, and we're in that space, a much bigger space than the politicians, but yet that is wrong and this is right. And it's a double standard.
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis has defended recent political events and said while the number of party supporters were large, they followed protocols and wore masks. PLP leader Philip Davis also insisted that party members have been adhering to protocols while campaigning. According to Fernando, it's going to be harder to get the public to buy into sticking to the COVID protocols when the rules differ for certain groups.
You're going to lose the victory if you know, as a parent, you start saying one thing and doing something else. It becomes difficult to convince the masses that this is what we need to do when those who are telling us this are 50 deep.
Fernando also defended the church against claims that officials are being dictated to. Reporting for our news, I'm Giorgio Bain.
Jazz Chisholm back in the lineup for the Marlins. Marcellus Hall has more.
All right, thanks, Christina, and welcome to our sports on a Wednesday, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Tell you what, Jazz Chisholm has certainly been off to a good start so far with the Florida Marlins. After taking a day off, he was back in the lineup last night as they look to pick up a win against the St. Louis Cardinals. Let's take a look. Jazz Chisholm and the Florida Marlins back in action. Jazz back in the lineup after a night off in the game before. Stepping in at second base, as far as the game would go in his stats anyway, he would finish with a 1-for-3 evening with an RBI. And that's pretty good for the young fella as the Marlins unfortunately come on the losing end of this one. They go down 4-2. Cardinals getting the win. Miami so far in the season are 1-4. They're currently fourth in the National League East with another game against the Cardinals coming your way this evening. Jazz once again expected to be back in the starting lineup, hoping for a good night at the plate and also in the process, hopefully picking up a win. The UB Mingos multi-event specialist Kendrick Thompson shattered the national record in the open men's decathlon at the B3A Easter Classic. This took place over the weekend at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. Thompson scored 7,644 points. That eclipsed the national record set by former UB Mingo Ken Mullings, who also participated this weekend. The previous record of 7,555 was set in 2019 in Lima, Peru by Mullins. Thompson's performance over the weekend was also a UB record in decathlon. The two-day event was full of surprises. After the sixth event, the 110 hurdles, the two competitors were tied with 4,905 points. Top spot wasn't decided until the last event. That was the 1,500. Thompson eventually won by 2 points over Mullins.
I really wanted to go 8,000 plus to break the national record and to qualify for Olympics. But unfortunately, my first day wasn't as strong as I wanted it to be. But I still hold form on the last day and keep moving forward. It was a long 2 days. I'm excited to do the decathlon again, my first one down. Hopefully I get one soon, but I feel pretty good about it. Good performance. I got 2 PRs today. Wasn't expecting it in the javelin, but I got it.
And there it is, your check on sports on this Wednesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Christina.
Ahead on our news, celebrating the accomplishments of girls in information and communication technology. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to our news. More perfect spring days ahead, but no rain in sight. Greg is back in the Weather Center with the details.
Thanks again, Christina. In our second look at weather, we take a look at a satellite view around the region. Across our area, high pressure remains in charge of our weather at the surface, but we have some high-level moisture moving out of the Pacific across the Western Caribbean and across the Bahamas in the form of some high-level clouds. That's filtering the sunshine across the area. Eventually, the high across our area will move out towards the east into the weekend. That's paving the way for yet another front expected by Sunday into Monday. So we expect some cooler temperatures and some precipitation by the beginning of next week. Your boating forecast, if you plan on doing that tonight through tomorrow, in northwest and central Bahamas, east-southeast winds 10 to 15 knots, seas running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean, while in the southeast Bahamas, easterly flow at 15 knots, seas will be running 3 to 5 feet over the ocean. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Monday. That's a look at our weather. Make it a great Wednesday night, everybody. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Greg. Bahamian women in the technology field coming together virtually to announce plans for International Girls in ICT Day, which will be observed on April 22nd. IRCA's Corporate and Consumer Relations Manager Mavis Johnson-Colley outlines their goals for 2021.
It is important, we feel, to ensure that our young people, girls in particular, are not left out of the equation, but are exposed to emerging technology, not just as users, but as drivers and developers of this technology.
Cable Bahamas representative Davriel Burrows and Alive rep Kendanique Campbell-Moss say it's time for women to smash the glass ceiling.
Historically, we wouldn't have seen maybe our mothers and our grandmothers do these things, but we have to challenge the idea that there's a certain type of brilliance that's unique to men. Women are equally, if not more brilliant, if I'll argue it myself, as men, and we have the capacity and we have the brain power to do these things. And
women are ahead in their fields by leaps and bounds. And of course, you mentioned it being a very patriotic situation, but look, in terms of Alive, our chief Alive commercial officer is Gravette Brown, and she has made opportunities for other women to excel.
Well, thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas. RTV's family spring break continues right now.